Hi everybody, this is Osprey from MyChartCoach.com, and in this video we're going to take a look at some of the stocks that were in play today. So that was a nice bounce for the markets. We had the markets had been pulling back and the indexes were starting to enter bear market territory on the daily charts. So it was nice to see a recovery today and a bounce. There were quite a few stocks in play. One of the stocks that made a bullish move was EGLT. Okay, so they had some good news came out in the middle of the afternoon, later afternoon, so it made a late in the day pop, and it ended up closing above 50 on the RSI, so it's in the bull zone. Look for a break above 50 on Fasto. You've got a bullish crossover here on ADX, and so the bullish development today on the chart was the close above the middle Bollinger Band. That's this dotted purple line here at 97 or 98. And so that had been big resistance. As you can see here, the support broke, and then the candle started following EMA's 4 1/8 resistance lower, and then they finally bounced today. The close above that level signaling the possible start of a new uptrend. If you look back here, there was a similar pattern where the candles were forming below the middle Bollinger Band, and then there was a close above right here in August, and then that signaled the start of the new uptrend. So this could be possibly signaling the start of a new uptrend. It depends on this 50-day simple moving average. That's this green line currently at 117. So it needs to close above that level. That's the first level, and then it needs to get above the 100-day simple moving average at 128. Both of those levels broke intraday, and the share price pulled back. If it can get a close above both those levels, then the next key level is the high close from September. So that's up near the upper wick on today's candle, and then just above that is the bottom of the gap. That's at about 165, and that as you can see over here, there's a gap between low of day on this candle and high of day on this candle, and so the top of the gap's up here near 240, and notice that's near the 200-day simple moving average. So if it can break above the bottom of the gap level, which is the second red line, it could possibly fill the gap and make a run up to that 200-day simple moving average. If it fails to break the bottom of the gap level, that could signal a temporary top, and you could see the candles consolidate. Okay, so yeah, nice move. There was a PSAR bull flip. Notice the dots are below the candles, and there's a bullish crossover on both MACD timeframes. Okay, so check out IPDN. This was alerted yesterday. It's got RSI and Fasto both in the bull zone. It formed that yesterday's candle had a super long upper wick. It had hit the 100-day simple moving average like the chart we just looked at, and it also had pulled below the 50-day simple moving average, but it did close above the middle Bollinger Band. And so that was, that was bullish. Like I said in the video last night, it had broken middle Bollinger Band support back here, and that was the first close above that level. It closed right at that level here, but that was the first close above that level since this downtrend began. And so that was signaling the possible start of a new uptrend. There was good follow through today, and there was a close above the green line, above the 50-day simple moving average. So that's the key level to hold currently at 371. If that can hold, the next key level to break is going to be up here at the 100-day simple moving average at 460. So if it can get above 460, then it might run up here to this high close resistance back in August, and you've got the 200 and 300-day simple moving averages on deck. Today's candle did close above the upper Bollinger Band, so if the candles pull back below that 50-day simple moving average, that's going to signal that the possible consolidation, and it needs to hold the middle Bollinger Band down here at 299 to keep the uptrend going. Okay, let's look at ICON. Okay, so this is a dead cat bounce play. As you can see, RSI and Fasto both broke above oversold levels. Below 30s oversold on RSI, and below 20s oversold on Fasto. So it signals the chart starting to heat up. You can see plus DI, the green line's hooking up, while you have minus DI hooking down, and so those are signals the bulls are starting to trying to take control. And so this had a huge gap down. Notice there's a space between these two candles, and then a huge drop. It found support down here in the 140s, 150s, and then today there was a bullish close above this lime line, which was EMA 8, and it had been turning the EMA 4, the pink line, into support for the last 5 or 6 trading sessions. And so this move today above the EMA 8 and above EMA 13 to 226 is signaling more upside potential. Notice how the pink line is starting to cross the green line to upside. If the pink line can stay above the green line, that's going to signal signaled up, that's an early reversal signal. If it crosses, the pink line crosses back below the green line, that's going to signal downside risk. The candles need to stay above these three levels now to remain bullish. The key level to break is going to be the middle Bollinger Band at 288. So that's the next target. It is the top of the bearish lower Bollinger Band channel, which which ICO is in right now, and it needs to close above that middle Bollinger Band to get a new uptrend going. If it fails to break that middle Bollinger Band, it could signal the top of the bounce. Notice there was a PSAR bull flip. The dots are below the candles. There was a big volume spike today, and then there's a MACD bull cross on the 1226 and 9, and the 813 and 5 had already crossed over. Okay, let's look at GBR. Okay, so yeah, this stock is it's been on a nice multi-day run here. This is I mean, you could call it the third day. It's been, it's formed multiple green volume bars in a row, 4 green volume bars in a row. It's been working on this multi-day run, and it came up and it hit the blue line here. That's the 300-day simple moving average at 174. 2 days in a row it failed to close above that level. Today it closed right at it, and so it needs to close above to signal more upside. If it gets a close above that level, then the closing price back here in April at about 215 is the next key level to break, and if it can get above that, then 270 will be on deck. This high close from back in March failed to break that 300-day simple moving average. If it fails to get above 174 on a pullback, you want to see this 200-day simple moving average at 146 hold. So that would be the key level to bounce off. Notice the EMA4 is at the same level. Okay, let's look at ARGS. Okay, it is in the bull zone on RSI, so that is good. You have a bullish crossover on Fasto. You want to see Fasto get back above 50 if you are a bull. So this stock has been turning the middle Bollinger Band into support, and it's been starting a new uptrend. It's currently above the 50-day simple moving average as well, which is at 17. So notice you've got the middle Bollinger Band at 17. That's the dotted purple line. And then you have a 50-day simple moving average at 17 as well. Okay, so candles above those levels signal that the chart is currently bullish. It has to get above this 100-day simple moving average at 22. So 22 is the big resistance zone. If it can close above that, that's going to signal upside potential. You've got this closing price here, and then you've got resistance here at 26. But yeah, it could really get moving if you can get above that 22 level. So looking for a close above 22 to signal ARGS wants to break out higher. It had this giant volume spike, and then it held support on the pullback. It looks like there was some loading here. So yeah, so we're going to see if it can keep going. Okay, let's look at LINU. Okay, so this chart is heating up. Okay, so it closed today above the middle Bollinger Band. It had been below that level since support broke back here in the end of October, and it came down and it hit the 50-day simple moving average. That's this green line here, currently at 163, and it tested it twice and held, bounced off of it twice, and then now it got back above. If you notice, all the moving averages are converged here. That you've got the 200, the 300, EMAs 4, 8, and 13, the 100, and the 50-day simple moving averages. All the moving averages are at the same zone here, and it closed above the middle Bollinger Band, which was the top moving average on this chart at 183, along with EMA4. If you look over here on the left, all the moving averages are between 163 and 183. 163 is the green line, 183 is the dotted purple line. The share price broke above the top. That signals more upside potential. And so now we're looking for the upper Bollinger Band at 215. That's the next key level to break. And then the big levels, this closing price here on the 6th of October. If it can close above the closing price here at about 235, that's going to signal it's finally ready to head higher. The one thing though is volume is very low, so it needs to get a pickup in volume. There was a crossover on the 8, 13, and 5. Notice that 12, 26, and 9 MACD is pinched. You want to see that MACD line cross over the signal line. Okay, so take a look at LBIX. This chart is heating up. It does have RSI at 53 with room to run, bullish crossover on Fasto, and so this is a similar chart to the one that we just looked at. It came down, it bounced twice. Here, this stock is bouncing off the 100-day simple moving average. That's the gold line at 138. Notice you have the 50-day simple moving average at 144, and then the same thing. You've got the 200 and the 300 and EMAs 4, 8, and 13 in the middle Bollinger Band. This is the exact same chart, but it's a different stock. It's LBIX. I mean, look how similar these patterns are. You've got the same thing. All the moving average converged, bounced off the support, now above the middle Bollinger Band. All the moving averages converged, bounced off of support, now above the middle Bollinger Band. I mean, the thing is that these patterns do not change. The patterns repeat over and over. The only thing that changes is the ticker symbol. All we care about really is the pattern. And so we're constantly looking for the right patterns to profit. And so this right here, the close above the middle Bollinger Band, it's currently trading above all the moving averages. This technically is as bullish as it can get. It's writing EMA's 4 and 8, EMA 4 support above all the moving averages. Okay, so it has to stay above the middle Bollinger Band. If it stays above 175, that's going to signal upside potential. This closing price right above $2 is the next key level to break. The real big level to break is this October 16th closing price at 280, or just above 280. If it can close above that, that's going to signal it wants to break out higher. Okay, so let's look at a couple of the big runners today. Okay, so the China stocks have been in favor. They've been running them really hard. And today, CADC was a big winner. It closed up 265%. As you can see here, there was a big gap up open. Now, with these stocks like this, you always have to look at the average daily volume. And so look at the volume. I mean, some days there's no volume at all. Okay, so these stocks, when they're running and they've got big volume, you know, they can be great. But if the volume dries up, you could get stuck holding the bag. They can be very easy to buy, but very tough to sell. So always remember, it's easier to sell into strength than into weakness. And many times the safest bet on these China runner plays is to lock in gains end of day. That's always the safest way to go. You can always reload the next day. That protects you from the gap down open. Now notice today's candle is floating above the upper Bollinger Band. The upper Bollinger Band is down here, way down at 483, $3 lower. I mean, you're talking about a huge haircut if the candles work back into the bands. You've got EMA 4 at 443. You've got the upper wick coming down from 975. That shows profit taking, and then you've got the big volume spike. Okay, so when a stock is breaking out like this, you have to look at the weekly chart to see where resistance is. And this did make a nice break above resistance this week. You know, it's above the 50, the 100, the 200, and then it broke above the 300-week moving average. So it is pushing well above the upper Bollinger Band. The upper Bollinger Band, again, on this chart is down here in the 4s at 484, and that's lined up with the 300-week simple moving average. Notice EMA 4 is right below at 432. So if the candles pull back, if the share price pulls back, you know, it needs to hold this 5 support zone. If it can stay above the 300-week moving average and turn into support, that will signal that it wants to break out higher. Notice that it's hitting resistance from 2014, the high close from January, and then it's hitting resistance from back here in 2012. This is like October, November resistance from back there, and so it's hitting a major resistance level here in the $7 to $8 range. If it fails to get above that, you know, that could signal that it wants to pull back. Remember LEDS. There's recent stocks that we've posted very similar charts on the runner, and then once they pulled below that level, it signaled that the share price was breaking down and pulling back. So if it can stay above this red line here, that signals more upside, and then the key level that breaks up here is going to be up here around 10. Notice it's the bottom of this candle, and then if it could get above 10, you've got the high up here at 1250, and then way up here you've got this 19 to 20 range, which was prior support zone. So first things first, it's got to get above 10, and it's got to hold this 7 to 8 support zone. If not, it could drop back down to 5. Okay, let's look at OPHC. This was another big winner. Closed up 230%. It had the big break above the moving averages today as well. It heated up yesterday. You know, it's been heating up the last couple days. You notice that there was the volume spike here. This is what we call the front load. You know, traders loaded before the big run down here. You know, it was a small volume spike, but these guys got all set up for it. And then today was the big pow. I'm sure they were probably getting out up here. You know, these guys that loaded down here, they probably got out here and made a fortune. And then the share price pulled back, and this shows dilution, profit taking. Notice that down here is the next support level. You've got the EMA 4 down here at 483 in the upper Bollinger Band. So if the candles work back into the bands, look at EMA 4 as the key support level to hold, and then you've got the 300-day simple moving average at 328. So yeah, so once again, look at the average daily volume. Some days there's no volume at all. Look, even when there was a volume spike, the next day there was no volume. So it was like almost impossible to get out if you were trying to sell. You have to use if you're stuck in a play like this, you have to use the big volume day as your exit out. Okay, so look at the weekly chart here, and this is the OPHC weekly chart. And so yeah, we were discussing this in our chat about how you know, this was hitting resistance. So before it came up and hit right, you know, we pretty much like called this out when it was hitting this level, the 300-week moving average, currently at 1285. It was signaling the top. It pulled back and was forming that upper wick, and it did have a healthy pullback from that level because it closed all the way down at 825. So we are alerting this up in the 12s that it was topping out. So yeah, congrats to everybody that's in the chat. You know, it pays to be in the chat. And then yeah, down here it pulled back. If it drops below this 200-week moving average at 732, that's going to signal consolidation. So it has to stay above 732 now. If it doesn't, that's going to be a red flag, and then you could see it work back into the bands. Notice the upper Bollinger Band is down here at 538, and you have the EMA 4 down at 450. And then on the upside, it has to break 1285 to head higher. Okay, and then keep an eye on HMNY. It didn't have a big gain today, but the chart is heating up. Notice that RSI is back above 50. You've got Fasto back above 50. You have actually you know, plus DI above minus DI and ADX. ADX needs to get above minus DI. The black line needs to cross the red line to the upside. And so what's going on here, it's kind of similar to the last charts that we saw where the share price pulled back, and then notice it has held the 50-day simple moving average, the green line, multiple times. It came up, came back and hit it. So this is very similar to the LINU and the LBIX chart, because notice how, okay, so they came down and hit, and then notice how HMNY has a very similar pattern. Broke middle Bollinger Band, came down, hit support, came up, hit support again, and then now check it out. It's above the middle Bollinger Band. Okay, so 2 days in a row, and actually, and it's like 3 out of 4 days it closed either at or above the middle Bollinger Band. And people always ask, you know, what does turning a level into support mean? This is what it means: multiple candles being able to hold that level. Notice how it spent 2 weeks, you know, 3 weeks here, turning the 50-day simple moving average into support. All these candles holding that level signals that that is a strong support level. And so what's going on now is the candles are above all the moving averages. You have the 200, the 300, the 100, the 50, EMAs 4, 8, and 13, and the middle Bollinger Band, which is also the 20-day simple moving average, all below the real candle body. This was a doji, you know, it's an indecision candle. It's setting up, it's small, it's forming these small candles, you know, while there's good volume down here. And so this is a loading type of pattern. And so what's going on is it's trading above all the moving averages, so it's actually super bullish. If it drops below the 50-day simple moving average, then that'll signal more consolidation. And if it turned into resistance and failed to hold, then you could see it drop down to the 100-day simple moving average. To the upside, if you can see it break through the upper Bollinger Band, basically at $15, $14.96, that's going to signal it's back in play and wants to run higher. If you look at the HMNY weekly chart, you can see here it came down and it bounced off of the EMA 13, and then notice how this orange line is held for multiple weeks in a row. For 3 weeks in a row it's held. That is a signal that the level has been turning into support. It's holding. There's multiple real candle bodies. The real candle body is this is the square, the rectangle in between the two lines, and so that's the real body. And the real body is above the support line. That's signaling that it has been turning into support. And so the close above EMAs 4 and 8 here today is signaling upside potential. So this candle will not set until the closing bell tomorrow. And what bulls want to see is a close above both lines. So a close above the pink line above 1174 for the week is going to signal that it's back in play and more upside potential, and then we'll be looking for a run back up to the upper Bollinger Band at 1848, and then the big resistance level to break is up here on what is that, the second week of October, up here at 21. Okay, yeah, thank you very much for viewing this video. If you'd like to learn more about charts and technical analysis, check us out at mychartcoach.com and our YouTube channel at mychartcoach.com. And yeah, you can also come check us out at our new chat. We got a new Discord chat going, and I'll post the link below the video if anybody wants to come check it out. Okay, thank you.